The Toronto Tempo and Portland Fire were supposed to have rosters by now. The WNBA's two newest expansion franchises were awarded entry into the league with the promise of filling 24 roster spots through an expansion draft modeled after the Golden State Valkyries process in December 2024. But today, both teams have exactly 0 players, 0 depth charts, and 0 clarity on when they'll actually be allowed to build a team. According to ESPN's reporting, the WNBA and the Women's National Basketball Players Association failed to reach a new collective bargaining agreement by the January 9 deadline, and the resulting moratorium has frozen free agency, the expansion draft, and essentially every transaction that would allow Toronto and Portland to function as professional basketball organizations. The season opener is May 8th. That's 90 days away. And somewhere between Turkey and France and unsigned apartments across America, dozens of fringe WNBA players who were counting on expansion to save their careers are watching their windows slam shut in real time. Right now, there are more than 100 unrestricted free agents sitting in limbo because no team in the league can sign anyone. 48 new roster spots were supposed to be the single biggest influx of opportunity for undrafted players, overseas veterans, and training camp cuts in WNBA history. If you care about which bubble players survive and which dreams get crushed before the first tip-off, subscribe and turn on notifications because we're tracking every negotiation update, every expansion draft rumor, and every career-defining moment before it trends. To understand why this is so devastating, you need to understand the math. The WNBA currently has 13 teams with 12 roster spots each, meaning 156 total jobs in the entire league. Adding Toronto and Portland was supposed to push that number to 180, creating 24 brand new spots that did not exist before. But those 24 spots are just the beginning. When the Valkyries held their expansion draft in December 2024, they pulled 11 players from existing rosters, including Kate Martin from the Las Vegas Aces and Temi Fogbenle from the Indiana Fever. Every player pulled from an existing team creates a vacancy that team needs to fill, which creates a cascading chain of opportunity that ripples across the entire league. According to The Athletic's mock expansion draft for Toronto and Portland, the two-team format could pull players from all 13 existing franchises across 12 rounds, with teams only able to protect 5 players in the first 6 rounds and then protect 1 additional player for the final 6. That means the ripple effect could realistically open 40 to 50 roster spots across the entire league when you factor in the replacements teams would need to sign. For a bubble player grinding overseas hoping for one more shot, that is the difference between a career and a retirement announcement on Instagram. The cruelest part is who gets hurt the most. Stars are fine. Breanna Stewart is not losing sleep over the CBA moratorium. A'ja Wilson is not refreshing her phone waiting for a qualifying offer. The players who are suffering are the ones who exist on the margins, the women who are good enough to be in the conversation but never quite guaranteed a spot. Think about the Awak Kuier archetype. Kuier was the second overall pick in the 2021 WNBA draft by the Dallas Wings, a 6'5" Finnish center who was supposed to be a franchise-changing talent. Instead, she averaged just 2.6 points and 2.5 rebounds across 3 underwhelming WNBA seasons before sitting out the entire 2024 campaign. She did not make the Wings' final roster for 2025 either. But here's the thing. Kuier went back to Turkey and has been absolutely dominant for Galatasaray this season, averaging 12.5 points, 6.8 rebounds, and 1.9 blocks per game in the Turkish Super League, while shooting 33% from three-point range and leading the entire EuroLeague in blocked shots. According to Sports Illustrated, the Wings still hold her right, but an expansion draft was supposed to be her lifeline back to the WNBA. Toronto or Portland could have seen that EuroLeague production and taken a flyer on a 24-year-old former number 2 pick with elite physical tools who clearly figured something out overseas. Instead, she's stuck in Istanbul with no timeline, no expansion draft date, and no way to control her own professional fate. Then there's the Kennedy-Burke archetype. Burke is the definition of a WNBA survivor. Drafted by the Dallas Wings in 2019 out of UCLA, she bounced from Indiana to Seattle to Washington before landing with the New York Liberty, where she averaged 8.1 points, 2.4 rebounds, and 1.3 assists per game during the 2025 season as a role player on a championship-caliber roster. Between WNBA stints, Burke carved out a legendary overseas career, winning back-to-back French League MVP awards in 2023 and 2024, while averaging over 15 points per game across stints in Spain, Italy, and France. She's the kind of versatile two-way wing who thrives when given consistent minutes, but constantly gets squeezed out by roster politics on veteran-heavy teams that already have their rotations locked in. The expansion draft was made tailored for players like Burke. A new franchise building from scratch needs experienced professionals who know how to compete immediately, who have proven they can produce when given opportunity, and who bring the kind of veteran culture you need in a first-year locker room full of players from 13 different organizations. Instead, Burke and dozens of players like her are in a holding pattern with zero information about when or whether they might actually get to sign somewhere. And then there's the Kennedy-Martin archetype, maybe the most painful category of all. Martin was a beloved college player at Iowa who got undrafted before being selected by the Golden State Valkyries in the December 2024 expansion draft. She became a fan favorite in the Bay Area and proved she belonged in the league when many doubted she ever would. The 2026 expansion was supposed to create that same pathway for the next generation of Kate Martins, the players who light up training camp but get cut because the math simply doesn't work on a 12-woman roster. Every year, camps produce players who are clearly WNBA caliber, but get released because there aren't enough spots to go around. Those women were looking at Toronto and Portland as their best chance, maybe their only chance to prove they deserve to be in this league. Now, those roster spots exist in theory. The teams can't conduct the expansion draft until a CBA is ratified. They can't sign free agents. They can't even establish protected lists because the rules governing the expansion draft are embedded in the collective bargaining agreement that doesn't yet exist. The front offices feel the chaos too. Portland fired general manager Vanya Cernovich admitted during her introductory press conference last August that the franchise had no idea what to expect regarding the expansion draft timeline. She said the Fire were preparing for the expansion draft to happen in December, similar to the Valkyries process, but that obviously never materialized. Toronto Tempo president Teresa Resch echoed the uncertainty, telling Front Office Sports that claiming everything is organized would be misleading. These are two professional sports franchises with a season starting in 3 months that literally can't acquire a single player. The WNBA delivered a new CBA proposal to the Players Union just yesterday, February 6th, according to USA Today. And the latest reporting indicates the WNBA has offered a supermax salary of around $1.5 million in 2026 that could rise significantly over the life of the deal. But the two sides remain far apart on the revenue-sharing framework that is the central sticking point. WNBA Players Association President Nneka Ogwumike has said she's optimistic a deal can be reached quickly once the revenue-sharing structure is settled. But quickly is a relative term when your season starts May 8th and you still need to hold an expansion draft, conduct free agency, run a college draft, and organize training camps before a single game can tip off. The timeline math is terrifying for bubble players. Even if a CBA is ratified tomorrow, the league would need to establish expansion draft rules, give existing teams time to submit their protected lists, conduct the actual 2-team draft for both Toronto and Portland, then open free agency for 100 veterans, then hold the college draft for incoming rookies, then allow all 15 teams to fill out rosters through trades and signings, then run abbreviated training camps. The Valkyries expansion draft happened in December 2024, and their first game was not until May 2025. That was 5 full months of lead time for one team. Toronto and Portland are looking at potentially having less than 2 months to do all of that for 2 teams simultaneously. Some of those 48 roster spots that bubble players were dreaming about might not materialize at all if the compressed timeline forces the expansion franchises to take shortcuts in roster construction, prioritizing safe veteran picks over developmental gambles on overseas performers. The historical comparison that keeps coming up is Awak Kuier. She went undrafted out of Rutgers in 2013 and spent years grinding through overseas leagues and open tryout invitations before finally sticking with the Indiana Fever and becoming the 2019 All-Star Game MVP. Her story is the one that every bubble player holds on to, the proof that persistence and resilience pay off if you just get one real opportunity. The expansion was supposed to be that opportunity multiplied by 48. Instead, it's become a cruel waiting game where the opportunity exists on paper but can't be accessed because two billionaire-backed ownership groups and a players' union can't agree on how to split a rapidly growing revenue pie. For players like Kuier averaging double-doubles in the EuroLeague, for WNBA players like Burke collecting MVP trophies in France, like the dozens of anonymous training camp cuts who were already studying Toronto and Portland's potential coaching systems and scheme fits, the CBA stalemate is not an abstract labor dispute happening in conference rooms. It is the difference between having a WNBA career and not having one. Every day the moratorium continues, another overseas contract gets signed that pulls a player out of the expansion draft pool. Every week without a CBA, another bubble player ages out of the window where a front office might take a developmental chance on them. The clock is not just ticking for the league and the union, it is ticking loudest for the women who have the least power and the most to lose. If a deal gets done in the next 2 weeks, there is still a path where this works out. The expansion draft happens in late February or early March, free agency opens immediately after, and both Toronto and Portland scramble to assemble competitive rosters in time for May 8th. But if negotiations drag into March or April, we are looking at a potential delayed season start and a scenario where the expansion teams enter their inaugural campaigns with rosters assembled in weeks instead of months, which would hurt the quality of play, damage the fan experience in two brand new markets, and most importantly, crush the careers of fringe players who needed this process to happen on schedule. We will be covering every single development as it breaks. The next video will break down the specific players most likely to be left unprotected once expansion draft rules are finally announced. So make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you do not miss it when the dominoes finally start falling.